And some law enforcement agencies now focusing on healing that divide between police and their communities, which was deepened by last summer's unrest.
Without relationships, there's no trust. And it's important that we plant this seed, that we till the soil so that everyone else can reap a harvest and calm the waters between law enforcement and community.
The Henry County Sheriff's Department held a Ride for Unity today to bring together police and community members. With the help from Shaquille O'Neal, about 500 motorcyclists rode from Locust Grove to Ellenwood, where they then enjoyed some food and music and conversation. You see the officer dancing right there.
We want to be the platform for what other law enforcement people do and follow. It's all about the community. This guy's, he's one of us. He's out there with the people. He's shaking hands. We're doing things seen and unseen in the community. And look, we just want people to be happy.
I just wanted to make sure that, I gave Shaq some props, because Shaq is a dynamite guy. I made a video about him the other day. No, I don't think Shaq should pay for the funerals of every person named after him who gets killed by gun violence, because we know Shaq would probably go broke if he had to do that. As wealthy as he is, he would probably go broke if he had to pay for every Shaquille that got killed. Okay? And if he didn't go broke, it would be a big, especially if he gave them a George Floyd style funeral with, gold casket, horse and chariot, entertainers and all that stuff. But if he gave, now that I think about it, if he just gave them a generic hood funeral at the local church or local funeral home or whatever, he could probably do it, and it probably wouldn't cost him but $6,000 a year. I mean, $6,000 is about a typical funeral cost. So let's just say $10,000. Probably about 10 to 15 Shaquilles get killed every year. Give or take a few. He could do that with what, he got in his pocket at any given time. I was thinking about the George Floyd style funerals. My bad.
We want to be the platform for what other law enforcement people do and follow. It's all about the community. This guy's, he's one of us. He's out there with the people. He's shaking hands. We're doing things seen and unseen in the community. And look, we just want people to be happy, because I'm all about them little kids right there.
Today's event is just part of an ongoing partnership between Shaq and the Sheriff's Office to promote community policing. Now, today marks 1 year since Rayshard Brooks was shot and killed by an Atlanta police officer at a Wendy's in southwest Atlanta. The shooting sparked several days of protest all around the city. Crowds in Atlanta are back at the site where Brooks was shot today to remember him and continue to push for what they want to see. And 11 Alive's Chanu Her is out in South Atlanta at a police precinct with more. Chanu?
Yeah, Natisha, there's a group gathering right now where that Wendy's used to be, where Rayshard Brooks was killed last summer. Now, the plan is for that group, once they're done gathering, to march over here to this police precinct for a protest. Last summer, when Rayshard Brooks was killed, groups also protested at this same precinct here in Atlanta. Now, people out here say they want to hear more people say Rayshard Brooks' name when it comes to talking about this case.
This is what Bill Maher talked about, progressive phobia. Progressives, which many of these, 97% of Wakandan women and 80% of Wakandan men are far left radical liberals and progressives. They don't see the progress that's being made. Let's just take away the fact that this guy was imprisoned, did 7 years for cruelty to children. And we've all known somebody who's gotten in trouble for beating their kids. I mean, I don't know anybody who's gotten 7 years for whatever they did to their kids. So he gets out early. because of the pandemic. What a blessing. Like, he got a miracle. The pandemic came along and he got to get out early. So he gets out early, then he drunk drives, falls asleep at the wheel in the drive-thru, yada, yada, yada. Gets approached by the nicest cops you could ever meet. I promise you. I may put a link to the whole 40-minute interaction before his death. Those were the nicest, most gullible, he basically got Gomer Pyle and Barney Fife. Literally. And I think that's why he tried them, because they were so nice and so understanding and so forgiving and so trying to give him every chance to just prove that he even knew what city he was in. He didn't know. He was so drunk he couldn't stop slurring and stumbling over his words. He had no idea where he was, what he was doing, nothing. But people have said his name. And progressives are their thing about about advancements that they get. They talk about this country as if it's the new Jim Crow, where it's just like the 1860s. Nothing has changed. And it's always this doom and gloom. Things are worse than ever. Listen, man. If you're a black person in America, you've got it better than 99% of all black people that don't live in America. I don't care if you live in the projects. I can tell a lot of y'all ain't been to the projects. Go to the projects. Everybody got on $300 tennis shoes. Nobody is starving. Ain't nothing but a bunch of fat people in the projects. Everybody got on designer clothes. The problems those people in the project have are other people in the projects. Ain't nobody missing no meals. Everybody got a dish satellite and flat screen TVs. Everybody got a bunch of babies. America is wonderful for black people. But progressives don't like to see the progress that they actually make happen. And the same thing with Rayshard Brooks. His name has been said a lot.
Now, people out here say they want to hear more people say Rayshard Brooks' name when it comes to talking about this case. The Brooks family and close friends joined protesters out here calling for legislation to prevent police shootings like this and for the officer who shot Brooks to be convicted. Right now, Officer Garrett Rolfe has been reinstated by the Atlanta Civil Service Board. Brooks' cousin says the last year has been exhausting for the family, but these protests are important for them.
This gives us energy, though. This helps us fight. Seeing support like this helps us fight.
That's right.
We know it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's an uphill battle. It's going to continue to be an uphill battle. But we got to stand for something.
And coming up on 11 Alive News at 10 and 11 tonight, hear more from Brooks' family members and from supporters about why they say they need more support when talking about this case.
All right, Chanu, we will see you then. Thank you for that report. Well, there is now a new push to transform that Wendy's property into something that will help carry on Brooks's memory by helping others. We'll have details on that coming up in just a few minutes here. Well, a year later, still no trial date has been set for Officer Garrett Rolfe. He is charged with murder in Rayshard Brooks' death. Just last week, a judge recused Fulton County DA Bonnie Willis and her office from prosecuting the case. And that's because Willis and members of the DA's office could be called to testify, making it a conflict of interest. It's now up to the Attorney General, Chris Carr, to appoint a new prosecutor to the case. And when we checked with his office this week, we were told it is still under consideration. And just last month, the Civil Service Board voted to reinstate Rolfe as an Atlanta police officer, and that is because they say his termination was not handled in compliance with the city code. But Rolfe will remain on administrative leave until his criminal charges are resolved. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Police Department has struggled to stay staffed since last summer. The department dealt with dozens of resignations in the weeks and months following Rayshard Brooks' death.
The department faced dozens of resignations following the unjust arrest and indictment of Officer Rolfe. Okay? That's what happened. Had nothing to do with Rayshard Brooks' death. Rayshard Brooks' death is just like the other 100 or so brothers that have gotten killed this year that nobody talks about. And they pick and choose a few out of the bunch. Hundreds of brothers get killed every year by the police. Twice as many white people get killed by the police. That had nothing to do with this. This was because of the unjust arrest and indictment of that officer. That officer should have been given the Medal of Honor.
They say his termination was not handled in compliance with the city code, but Rolfe will remain on administrative leave until his criminal charges are resolved. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Police Department has struggled to stay staffed since last summer. The department dealt with dozens of resignations in the weeks and months following Rayshard Brooks' death. As of this week, the department says they are still short about 400 officers, something the chief has attributed to the recent rise in crime in the Atlanta area. Continuing our team coverage tonight, Naima Abdullahi hears from community activists and leaders about the impact Brooks' death has had on the city and the impact it will continue to have as the case against Officer Rolfe moves forward.
So come on, let's put one on the fence.
Balloons for Rayshard, who was a father just like him.
This is to show everyone how we all can still come together and make things better.
Community activist Gary Stokes gives a history lesson.
There used to be a Wendy's sitting right there.
As
I can't, man. Y'all people in the sun are... Y'all, some people are crazy, man. What's wrong with y'all, man? Is it just me? What's wrong with y'all? This is what you're doing as an activist in a community where, oh my God, so many good. How many of y'all been following the channel for at least 6 months? I know I got a lot of new subs. The stories coming out of Atlanta. Oh my God, the good, hardworking people that are victims to this gun violence, the carjackings, the shootings, the random violence, the highway shootings. This guy's out here. There used to be a Wendy's right here. Like, what is wrong with these people?
So come on, let's put one on the fence.
balloons for Rayshard, who was a father just like him.
This is to show everyone how we all can still come together and make things better.
Community activist Gary Stokes gives a history lesson.
There used to be a Wendy's sitting right there.
As he reflects on how Rayshard Brooks' life impacted this community.
As I stand here today and think about it, all I can do is look back and see where he took his last breath at, you know, where he was parked at, and just how life changed because Rayshard Brooks was trying to do the right thing.
Gerald Griggs, community organizer and member of the Atlanta chapter of the NAACP, says Rayshard Brooks represents more cases of officer-involved shootings in Atlanta.
Jimmy Atchison, Oscar Kane, Kane Rogers, Jamarian Robinson, just a few of the names here in Atlanta.
Okay, so you named 4 people. Are you done? May I retort? Little Pulp Fiction quote right there. Allow me to retort. So these are the fatal gun violence victims, the victims of fatal gun violence in Atlanta. Look at these sisters, man. Let's just mother says son who was killed after firing at trooper had shot her in the face and killed the grandmother. So her thug grandson killed her. University of New Haven, University community mourns the passing of Justine Bernard. Woman arrested in friend shooting death at downtown Atlanta apartment. She was killed by a 19-year-old sister. Look at the people who are dying. This man was killed in a drive-by. Look at these faces, man. Of course, you know this girl, she's a basketball player. Star basketball player at her high school. She was killed in a random shooting. Some guys just came through spraying the block. They weren't shooting at her. They were just shooting. Killed her. Apostle Kevin Dwayne Nix. I did a video on this, y'all guys remember. Mistaken identity. Riding in his truck. Some thugs thought it was somebody else. They pulled up, shot him. The truck veered off, crashed. They come up to the truck and finish him off. Execution style. 16-year-old. Good man. I'm just like, look at this gun violence. Look what these guns are doing in Atlanta. You know Kennedy, you know her. Buckhead, affluent area. Shopping with parents. With her aunt. 7-year-old girl in the back of the car. Two fools get in an argument, start shooting at each other. You know the deal. They never hit each other, and they hit her while the car she was in just happened to be passing. Wasn't involved in just driving like you're driving, and some fools you see a parking lot to the side, and the fools in there get the arguing and shooting at each other. The bullet found her. Did a video on this brother. Georgia teacher. Woke, but great man. Young brother. Outside his apartment, gets carjacked and killed on the spot by some thugs. Nobody in custody. Nobody knows nothing. Yada, yada, yada. Young school teacher. Very active in the students' lives. On and on and on and on. This little kid right here, Tyrell Sims, was already being looked at by colleges. He was a All-American football player at 11, because you know they have those. I don't know if you know, but they start him young. Pee Wee, Pop Warner. He was already a All-American. He was going to go. He was going to go somewhere D1, Florida, Georgia, Florida State, Miami, one of them schools. Senselessly killed by some thugs, just shooting in his neighborhood. Pulled up and shot him. And it wasn't like he was in the gun violence. He was in a gang or nothing. It wasn't like, oh, this was a kid that, no, this kid was not into that. I did the story on this. So that was just pulled up. I think maybe they had a beef with his neighborhood or somebody in his neighborhood. Pulled up and shot him. Killed him, right in broad daylight. 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And on and on and on. And you know this actor. This is the great character actor, Thomas Jefferson Byrd. You know him from a lot of different things. The Corner. Well, that's a lot of different Spike Lee movies. He was gunned down outside of his house. They caught the guy, brother. Just shot him down like a dog. I think it was a robbery. It's kind of sketchy, but they caught the brother. I didn't follow it after that, but it appeared to be a robbery. Killed him. So, back to you, brother. You were saying, brother?
Jimmy Atchison, Oscar Kane, Kane Rogers, Jamarian Robinson, just a few of the names here in Atlanta.
Getting justice for Rayshard Brooks is getting justice for everybody.
June 12th, Rayshard Brooks was shot and killed by Atlanta police officer Garrett Rolfe. The video went viral in the middle of solidarity protests for George Floyd. Now Atlanta had personal reasons to hit the streets. A summer of protests that ignited conversations about policing in black neighborhoods, distrust for law enforcement, and police reform.
They have to have more training. Nobody looks up to the police anymore. Nobody looks up to their protection anymore.
I think it's important that we focus on the issue of police accountability. That's the reason why we had the biggest protest in American history and the biggest protest in Atlanta history.
Gary Stokes, who helped organize many nights of protests last summer in response to the death of Rayshard Brooks, says he's willing to do that again until there is justice. So far, a prosecutor has not been assigned to the case and a trial date has not been set.
We got to do what's right. We got to make it right for Rayshard Brooks.
And if they don't want to see Freedom Summer 2021, you might want to get this one right.
And tonight we will be continuing our team coverage of the 1 year anniversary, including how it prompted changes in policing. That is coming up later on.